chosen ones, lean in. What I'm about to say isn't just another word, it's a lifeline. God told me clearly, take immediate action to protect your sacred visions and plans. Not everyone deserves access to what heaven whispered to you in the midnight hour. Some things must remain hidden, because premature exposure can kill what God is still growing. I know this deeply because I once shared too much too soon, and the weight of negativity almost crushed me. But God preserved it, and now I see why silence is holy. Have you ever lost a dream simply because you told the wrong person, or watched a fragile blessing dissolve under careless words? Have you felt the ache of waiting and wondered if God's timing had passed you by? If so, this message is for you. Today, we will walk through why concealment is wisdom, why the silence of your enemies can become your victory, and how pain has been training you for a season of resurrection. This is not theory. These are living truths that changed my life and can change yours. I want you to feel seen, known, and held as we go deeper. If this stirs your spirit, subscribe to spiritual journals and turn on notifications so these prophetic words reach others hungry for hope. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up. Your presence matters, and together we will guard what God has placed in you and step confidently into the promise today, now. Conceal to protect. Let me slow down here, because I believe this is where many chosen ones stumble. Concealment is not weakness. Concealment is wisdom. When Joseph opened his heart and told his brothers about his dream, instead of celebrating, they hated him. That dream nearly cost him his life. The lesson is clear. Your vision is oil, and oil is precious. It must be kept in vessels, not poured out carelessly where it can be contaminated. I used to think that sharing everything God whispered to me meant I was showing faith, but I learned through heartbreak and disappointment that sometimes the holiest act of faith is staying silent. Some dreams are too tender to be placed in the hands of those who cannot yet understand. That silence is not denial, it is protection. I want to share something personal. There was a time when I told people too much about what God was birthing inside me. I was so excited that I thought surely everyone would rejoice. Instead, I was met with doubt, with laughter, even with subtle words meant to diminish my faith. And for a season, those words grew heavier than the vision itself. I carried wounds that weren't from my battles with the enemy, but from opening my heart to the wrong ears. But God was merciful. He taught me that silence is sometimes the loudest testimony of trust. When I stopped over-explaining and simply held on to what He showed me, I began to notice something new: peace. And in that peace, my dream began to grow without interference. This is not about fear. This is about stewardship. Look at Mary, the mother of Jesus. When the angel announced she would carry the Messiah, she didn't run to the village and shout it from the rooftops. Scripture says she pondered these things in her heart. That's the power of concealment. Concealing is not denying. It is cradling the promise until God says the time is right. If Joseph had waited, perhaps his brothers would have been softened. If I had waited, perhaps I would not have endured the heartbreak of being misunderstood. If you wait, you may spare yourself unnecessary battles. This is more than advice. It is a Christian motivational speech that reminds us that silence does not mean absence. It means alignment. Concealment is a sacred pause between revelation and manifestation. It is like a seed planted deep in the soil. You cannot see it, but beneath the ground it is breaking open, forming roots, preparing to rise. If you dig it up too early, you destroy what was meant to grow. Protect your seed by leaving it in the soil of prayer. Guard it with fasting, nurture it with worship. Then when the time comes, God Himself will make sure that what you carry is revealed in power and cannot be touched by jealousy or doubt. Let me encourage you with something fresh. One way you can protect your vision is by creating secret spaces with God. Keep a journal where you write down the whispers of the Spirit, but resist the urge to post everything online. Let your journal be your sacred vault. Another way is through quiet acts of obedience. Instead of telling everyone what you plan to do, simply do it when God tells you. Watch how obedience in silence often speaks louder than announcements ever could. And here's another thought. Sing your dreams in worship when no one else is listening. Sing them into the heavens where no critic can distort them. God hears, and heaven keeps record. Sometimes people ask me, doesn't silence feel lonely? And my answer is, yes, it can. But it is in that lonely silence that God becomes your closest friend. David knew this when he hid in caves from Saul. He didn't spend that time trying to convince others of his calling. He spent it writing psalms, strengthening his spirit, and preparing for the throne. Concealment was his training ground. Perhaps your concealment is your training ground too. Maybe you are being hidden so that when the day comes, you won't just have a dream, you'll have the strength to carry it. I feel this so strongly. Silence is not empty, it is full. It is full of God's whispers, full of angelic assignments, full of protection from the unseen. Every time you choose to conceal, you are saying, Lord, I trust you with the timing. You are saying, Father, I believe your promise doesn't need the applause of men to be real. That kind of trust becomes a magnet for favor. That kind of faith keeps your blessing untouchable. And let me add this. Sometimes concealment is also compassion. Not everyone can handle your light yet. Jesus told the disciples in John 16:12, I have much more to say to you, more than you can now bear. Even Christ himself concealed certain truths until hearts were ready. If the Son of God practiced concealment, how much more should we? Concealing protects your vision and protects others from being crushed by what they are not prepared to hear. So what do you do in this season of concealment? You pray deeper. You dream bolder in private. You guard your mind by filtering who you allow to speak into your life. You choose to trust that what is hidden will one day be revealed in glory. And when you feel the urge to prove yourself, remind yourself of this. Silence is sometimes your loudest sermon. Beloved, let me close this with fire in my heart. Your dream is not fragile, it is divine. But every divine thing requires protection. The womb conceals a child until the appointed time. The cocoon conceals a butterfly until it is strong enough to fly. The soil conceals the seed until it is ready to bloom. Concealment is not withholding, it is preparing. And when the preparation is complete, no hand can stop what heaven has released. So hold your dream close. Treasure it like oil. Conceal it not out of fear, but out of faith. Because the day is coming when what you protected in silence will speak louder than any critic, and your blessing will stand untouchable, glowing with the unmistakable fingerprint of God.
The silence of defeat. Let's pause here, chosen one, because this is where God often writes the most powerful chapters of our lives. There is a sound that is louder than insults, louder than gossip, louder than every false word spoken against you. It is the sound of silence, the hush that fills the air when those who wished for your failure realize they cannot stop what God has already ordained. I have walked into rooms where once I was mocked, where whispers curled like daggers and laughter dripped with cruelty. Years later, I stepped back into those same rooms, and there was no laughter, no mockery, just quiet. That silence was not empty. It was full of truth. It was the sound of defeat on their part and victory on God's. But here's the revelation. The silence of defeat is not just about them. It is also about you. In the stillness that follows a storm, there is a deep and holy peace. What once felt like a battlefield of anxiety becomes a sanctuary of calm. It is in that quiet space that a spiritual awakening begins to bloom. When the noise of accusation dies down, your spirit finally hears God's whisper more clearly. And in that whisper comes the reminder that you were never defined by their words. You were defined by His promise. I remember seasons when I begged God to defend me. I wanted Him to shout on my behalf, to silence the voices immediately. But God's strategy was different. He let time reveal His justice. He let my life itself become the proof. And in the end, the people who laughed had nothing left to say, while I stood in the very place they said I'd never reach. That silence became my testimony. It became the stage for my own spiritual awakening. Think of Hannah in the Bible. She wept bitterly because others mocked her barrenness. She had no defense against their words. But when God gave her Samuel, the silence of her enemies spoke volumes. No more mocking, no more taunts, just quiet. And in that quiet, Hannah lifted a song of praise. The silence of defeat gave birth to her awakening, a realization that God had been writing her story in ways no one else could see. Let me speak comfort into your heart. Silence can feel heavy. It can feel like abandonment when you are in it. But what if that heavy quiet is actually holy ground? What if the absence of noise is God clearing the atmosphere so you can breathe again? What if He is stripping away the distractions, silencing the chaos, and drawing you into a deeper awareness of His presence? That is what a spiritual awakening looks like. It is not always fire from heaven or thunder in the sky. Sometimes it is the soft quiet after the storm, the peace that cannot be explained. Here's a fresh thought. What if you treated silence as a language? The silence of your enemies is God's way of saying, the battle is over. The silence of your heart after grief is God's way of saying, healing has begun. The silence of your spirit in prayer is God's way of saying, listen, I am near. If you can learn to read silence, you will discover it speaks with clarity. It tells you when the season has shifted, when the battle has been won, when the time has come to rise. There is also a personal awakening that happens in the silence of defeat. I have learned to journal during those quiet seasons. I write not only my prayers, but also the lessons the silence is teaching me. You could try this too. Write down the moments where your enemy's voices faded. Write down the times when anxiety fell quiet. Later, when you read those entries, you will see a pattern. Every silence was not an absence, it was evidence. Evidence that God had moved, that heaven had intervened, that resilience had carried you through. I want you to imagine Jesus standing in front of His accusers before the crucifixion. The Bible says He remained silent. His silence was not weakness, it was power. His silence exposed their emptiness. His silence declared that their accusations could not change His identity. And after His resurrection, the silence of the empty tomb spoke louder than any accusation ever could. That is the silence of defeat. It is holy, it is final, and it carries an awakening for anyone willing to hear it. Sometimes the silence of defeat is also your invitation to sing. When the noise dies down, your song rises higher. When others go quiet, your praise can fill the air. Sing even when it feels awkward. Sing even when no one is listening. Because worship and silence has a way of shifting the atmosphere. It tells the enemy that his voice has no authority anymore. It awakens your own soul to joy, to freedom, to peace. Beloved, let this truth comfort you. You don't need to fight every battle with words. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to defend every vision. Sometimes all you need to do is wait until the silence comes, because that silence is God's final answer. It is His stamp of victory on your life. So let me ask you again, are you willing to embrace the quiet, both the painful quiet of being misunderstood and the peaceful quiet of being vindicated? Because both are holy, both are shaping you, both are leading you toward your spiritual awakening. The silence of defeat is never empty. It is filled with proof that God has been fighting for you all along. It is filled with peace that only He can give. It is filled with the sound of chains breaking, even if you can't hear it with your natural ears. Learn to welcome the silence, because hidden within it is the sweetest song of all, the song of your resilience, the melody of your awakening, the rhythm of a new beginning written by the hand of God.
Pain is training is where the message touches something raw and holy, because pain is one of the most misunderstood teachers in life. For years, I thought my pain was a punishment, a cruel reminder of my failures, or maybe even proof that God had overlooked me. But over time, with tears still on my face, I began to realize that pain was never meant to break me. It was meant to build me. It became the classroom where God taught me endurance, compassion, and resilience. Every betrayal, every sleepless night, every season of loss was chiseling away what was weak and revealing what was strong. And I know I'm not the only one. If you're listening right now, you've walked through nights that felt endless, days that felt unbearable, but here you are, breathing, listening, and still standing. That is proof that pain did not destroy you, it trained you. When we talk about Christian mental health, this truth is vital. Mental battles are real, and they can be exhausting. Pain is not only physical, it is emotional, spiritual, mental. Sometimes the heaviest battles are the ones no one else can see. I've had moments where my mind was louder than any storm outside of me. Thoughts of defeat, of not being enough, of never overcoming. And yet in that place, God's whisper was stronger. He reminded me of Paul in 2 Corinthians 12, who cried out 3 times for his thorn to be removed, and yet the answer was not removal, but grace. Grace became his training. Grace became his strength. What if the very pain you are asking God to take away is the place where He is building in you a strength that cannot be stolen? Pain trains us in ways nothing else can. It softens our hearts toward others who are hurting. It awakens compassion we never would have known if we had never cried ourselves. When I look back, the times I wanted to quit became the very places I learned to lean into God more deeply. It was in those moments that my prayers shifted from, "God, take this away," to, "God, teach me how to walk through this with you." And in that shift, something powerful happened. I stopped seeing myself as a victim of my circumstances and started seeing myself as a student in God's training ground. Let's think of David. Before he ever faced Goliath, he faced lions and bears in the fields. Painful, dangerous moments where his life was on the line. But those private battles became his preparation for public victory. He didn't defeat Goliath with fresh courage. He defeated him with trained courage. And that courage was born out of pain, out of struggle, out of hardship. Your pain is not random. It is the training ground for something greater. This is also about your mental resilience. In Christian mental health, we often talk about renewing the mind. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Pain has a way of forcing renewal. It strips away the illusions of control and brings us face to face with the truth that God is our anchor. Renewal often comes when old thought patterns are shattered and we are forced to lean on the Word like never before. That renewal is not easy, but it is holy. Here's a fresh activity I began practicing in my own pain, something that helped me keep my mind anchored. I created what I called thank you notes to pain. It may sound strange, but it changed me. I would sit with my journal and write, "Thank you, betrayal, for teaching me how to forgive. Thank you, loss, for teaching me how to cherish life. Thank you, anxiety, for reminding me to lean into God's peace. It transformed the way I looked at hardship. It shifted my focus from resentment to resilience. You might try this yourself. It doesn't erase the reality of pain, but it reframes it as a trainer, not an enemy. There is another perspective too. Jesus himself was trained through pain. Hebrews 5:8 says, although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered. Think about that. The perfect Son of God did not skip the classroom of pain. He embraced it and turned it into purpose. His suffering became our salvation. If Jesus' pain carried divine purpose, then yours does too. It may not feel holy while you're in it, but one day you will see that the very tears you cried became seeds of strength for someone else's healing. For those wrestling with deep mental battles, let me speak this over you. Your pain is not a prophecy of your future. It is not the final word. It is the gym where your spirit is being strengthened, where your mind is being renewed, and where your faith is becoming unshakable. In the language of Christian mental health, this is resilience, and resilience is born through fire. So the next time you feel buried under pain, I want you to imagine a seed under the soil. It looks dark, it looks covered, it looks forgotten. But deep beneath the ground, something sacred is happening. Roots are forming, strength is being built, and when the time is right, that seed will break through the soil with life and beauty. That's you. Pain tried to bury you, but God is using it to train you to rise. Chosen one, hear me. Your survival is not just survival, it is empowerment. Every day you endure, every prayer you whisper, every tear you release is building something in you that cannot be taken away. You are stronger than you realize, wiser than you know, and braver than you feel. Pain has been your teacher, but God has been your trainer, and He will never waste what you've walked through. So instead of cursing your pain, hold it up before God and say, Lord, use this, and watch how He transforms your scars into strength, your tears into testimonies, and your struggles into stepping stones. Pain is not the end. It is the training ground for the purpose that still lies ahead of you. And when you rise from it, you will not only carry your own victory, you will carry the power to inspire others who are still in the fight. That is the gift of pain. That is the beauty of Christian mental health. That is the power of a life that has been trained, not destroyed.
The turning point. Beloved, lean in close because I believe this is a holy moment for you. The long season of waiting, the endless nights of wondering if heaven had forgotten, the tears you thought were wasted, they were never wasted. God has seen them all, and now the turning point has come. The waiting has been preparation, not punishment. Heaven has recorded every prayer you whispered in the dark and every sigh you gave when no words could be spoken. Now those prayers are stirring the atmosphere, shifting obstacles, and bending situations in ways that cannot be explained by logic. This is your appointed time. This is the moment when heaven's calendar intersects with your life. You are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. You are the reason this word is being spoken right now. I've lived long enough to know that when God decides to move, He does not ask for permission. He does not consult the doubters or the naysayers. He does not check the opinions of those who once said no. He simply declares yes. And that yes opens doors no man can shut. Doors that slammed yesterday will swing open tomorrow, and the very tables that rejected you will one day invite you as an honored guest. But the real question is not whether God will move, it is whether you will step through without fear, whether you will release the chains of doubt and allow faith to carry you forward. This is where a guided meditation of faith can help. Take a moment, close your eyes, and breathe deeply. Imagine the chains of delay falling from your hands. See in your spirit a locked door in front of you. And now picture the hand of God turning the key. As the door opens, imagine light flooding into your soul, filling every corner that once felt heavy or hopeless. Hear His voice whispering, "This is your moment. Step forward." Guided meditation rooted in the Word of God is not about emptying yourself.
It is about filling yourself with truth. It is a sacred pause where your mind rests and your spirit listens, and in that stillness, courage rises. Let me share something from my own journey. There was a time when I begged God to move, but nothing seemed to shift. I grew weary and wondered if maybe I had been forgotten. Then one day, quietly, without fanfare, God moved. A door that had been locked for years suddenly opened. What stunned me was that it happened when I least expected it, when I had almost given up. And when it came, I had to make a decision. Would I step forward in faith, or would I retreat into doubt? That moment became my turning point, and because I chose to trust, what followed was greater than I had imagined. Think about Israel standing at the Red Sea. Behind them was Pharaoh's army, in front of them a sea with no bridge. It looked impossible. Yet in that exact moment, God declared a turning point. He told Moses to stretch out his staff, and the waters parted. What was once an obstacle became a pathway. That is what happens when heaven moves. The very things that terrified you become the ground you walk on. But the people had to step forward. They could not stay frozen in fear. Their miracle required movement, and so does yours. When I say the season of waiting is over, I am not saying that every challenge disappears overnight. What I am saying is that the spiritual atmosphere has shifted. The favor of God has tilted toward you. The silence has been broken. It is now about alignment, about stepping boldly into the opportunity you once prayed for. This is the essence of a turning point. It does not just change your circumstances, it changes you. You rise differently, think differently, move differently. Here's something fresh to try. The next time you sense fear holding you back, sit quietly with God and let Him lead you through a guided meditation of His promises. Picture yourself placing your burdens at His feet. Imagine His hands lifting you up. Visualize your name written on His palm, as Isaiah says. Let that picture steady you. The more you meditate on His word, the more courage grows inside you. Joshua 1:8 says, "Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it." Meditation births obedience, and obedience leads to breakthrough. Chosen one, I want you to feel the urgency of this hour. You have circled the same mountain long enough. You have replayed the same doubts long enough. The turning point is not coming, it is here. God has not forgotten you. He has been setting the stage behind the scenes, and now He is drawing back the curtain. The spotlight of His favor is resting on your life, but He cannot walk through the door for you. You must move your feet. You must silence the voices of doubt and step into what has already been prepared. Do not underestimate this moment. Turning points are rare, and they carry eternal weight. Every choice you make now will ripple through your future. Do not let fear steal this moment. Do not let hesitation cause you to miss what has been scheduled in heaven. Instead, lift your head, breathe deeply, and declare, "This is my turning point." So let me leave you with this. The turning point is not just about where you are going. It is about who you are becoming. You are stronger now. You are wiser now. You are ready now. Heaven has remembered your tears, and the season of waiting is finished. Stand at the open door and walk forward with courage, because the God who began the work in you is faithful to complete it. This is your moment. This is your turning point, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what God has already set in motion.
Embrace your grand purpose. This is the moment where heaven leans in and whispers, "You are not ordinary. You are not forgotten. You are marked for something greater than you've imagined." I know doubt has tried to chain you. I know burdens have pressed heavy on your shoulders, but hear me, your faithfulness has not been wasted. Every hidden prayer, every act of kindness no one else noticed, every tear you wiped away in silence, God has kept record. And now, Miracles are already searching for your name. They are not wandering randomly. They are divinely assigned to find you, to rest upon you, to unfold in your life like a harvest long prepared. But stepping into your grand purpose requires something deep within, unwavering faith. Yes, the thoughts of failure will creep in, those whispers that say you are not enough or that your time has passed. But those whispers are lies. Your dreams are not just fantasies of your heart. They are echoes of God's promise. His promise is not fragile. It is the very proof of your identity. When you start to walk in that truth, you stop shrinking to fit other people's comfort zones. You stop apologizing for existing. You rise as the chosen one you were always meant to be. I remember a season in my life where I kept playing small, convincing myself that humility meant hiding my gifts. But what I learned is that false humility is not holy. It is fear disguised as meekness. God had to teach me that embracing purpose is not arrogance. It is obedience. And obedience requires mindfulness. To be mindful means to be present, to be awake to the moments God has already placed in your hands. It means not rushing ahead in anxiety or retreating back into regret, but standing in the sacred now and saying, "Lord, I receive what you are doing here." Mindfulness is not just a modern practice, it is biblical. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." That stillness is mindfulness. It is choosing to notice His presence in the present. Your grand purpose cannot be lived in distraction. It requires attention to the gentle nudges of the Spirit, to the divine appointments hidden in ordinary conversations, to the peace that comes when you pause long enough to breathe God's goodness in. When you learn to practice mindfulness with Him, even washing dishes or walking in the park becomes a sacred act. You begin to see that purpose is not only found in big stages or dramatic moments, but in daily faithfulness, in staying aware of God's voice guiding you step by step. Here's a fresh idea you might try. As you embrace your grand purpose, create small mindfulness rituals with God. Maybe each morning, before you scroll through your phone, you pause, take a deep breath and whisper, "God, I am here and I know you are here." Maybe you set aside time in the middle of your day to close your eyes for 1 minute and imagine His light surrounding you. These simple pauses recenter your soul and remind you that your purpose is not far away. It is unfolding in the present. Think of Esther. She was an orphan girl turned queen, and her grand purpose was not revealed all at once. It unfolded in mindful obedience to each moment God placed before her. She didn't rush, she waited, she listened, she discerned. And at the right time, she rose and declared, "If I perish, I perish." That was her turning point. And it came because she embraced her purpose with full awareness of God's timing. Your mindfulness will awaken you to the fact that your life is not random. It is a story written by the author of eternity. Every chapter, even the painful ones, has been leading you to this moment. And now, you are not just stepping into blessing, you are becoming the blessing. You are the answer to someone's prayer, the light in someone's darkness, the hand God will use to wipe away another's tears. That is what grand purpose feels like. It is bigger than your comfort, bigger than your plans, bigger than your fears. So let go of the doubt, drop the burdens, lift your eyes and breathe deeply. This is your sacred assignment, to live fully awake, fully mindful, fully alive in the promise God has spoken over you. When fear tries to creep back in, remind yourself that your identity is sealed by His promise, not by your failures. When regret tries to whisper, remember that your past is a locked door and the key has been thrown away. When anxiety tries to rush you, slow down, breathe, and return to stillness, because in the stillness you will hear Him say again,
You are chosen. I speak this over you now. You are stepping into a season where your purpose will no longer feel distant. You will wake up with clarity. You will sense God's presence in your daily routines. You will see doors open that you thought were sealed forever. But more than that, you will become the blessing itself. You will walk into rooms and shift atmospheres simply by carrying His peace. You will speak words that heal because you have learned to listen first. You will live not hurried or burdened, but mindful, steady, and anchored in His love. Embrace your grand purpose today, because this is not just about receiving, it is about becoming. You are not only chosen to walk in blessing, you are chosen to embody it. And as you rise, the world around you will rise with you. This is your moment. This is your mindfulness in action. This is the grand purpose you were born to carry.
So let me leave you with this. Chosen ones, your story is not ending in struggle. It is rising into promise. Every battle that tried to break you has become the soil of your breakthrough. And every silence has turned into proof that heaven has been working on your behalf. Financial abundance is not a dream reserved for others. It is a promise with your name written on it. The same God who multiplied bread and fish, who turned emptiness into overflow, is still the God who provides today. If this message stirred something deep within you, type in the comments, "I will guard my vision." That's your prophetic declaration, a seal over your future that no storm can erase. And if this word spoke life to your spirit, I want to invite you to like this video so it can reach others who need the same encouragement. Chosen ones, don't forget to subscribe to Spiritual Journals, where faith, wisdom, and breakthrough come together to strengthen your journey. This is the place where we rise together into purpose, peace, and provision. I bless you now. May your hands never lack what they need. May your spirit always carry hope. And may your life overflow with favor that blesses generations to come. Walk boldly, rise faithfully, and remember, you are chosen, and your abundance is already on the way.